welcome. We're on to week 11. Rookie and Jacqui, let's chat allergies. So this week we thought we'd celebrate International Women's Day, and we're talking about women's intuition and allergies and our experiences of trying to get some understanding from our NHS colleagues on our son and daughter's conditions. So my name is Jacqui McPeak, and this is my colleague Rookie Davis.
Hi, Rookie Davies from Womby's Kitchen. Do you want to start or do you want me to go?
Start.
Okay, so I was just going to talk about when Nathan was diagnosed. So he was eventually diagnosed at 4 months when we ended up in A&E after he'd had a little bit of milk. But preceding that, even as early as 4 weeks or so, I had noticed that when I put him to bed, he was rubbing his eyes and his eyes were getting quite swollen, and he seemed like they were really itching him. And we'd had another occasion where he had a little bit of milk. I was breastfeeding him at the time, but we were going on a plane at 6 weeks when he was 6 weeks old, and I didn't want to breastfeed on a plane, so I was trying to get him to have a little bit of milk so I could, you know, first time mum and all that kind of thing. And he'd thrown it up, and at each time that I'd mentioned these things to the health visitor when she came along, she was like, no, I don't think so. I think you're just being a little bit overzealous, overprotective. I'm not sure what the word is, but she basically dismissed it. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that something was wrong. And it wasn't until, you know, we got on the plane, he'd had some milk, and when we got to the other end, he projectile vomited the milk. So we stopped then. We didn't do anything because we were abroad at that point in Spain. And then again, I mentioned it. She's like, oh, it's probably the plane. So okay, fine. And then the last time we ended up in A&E, you know, full-on reaction, EpiPen, Piriton, the lot. And I kind of think it could have been stopped if someone had just listened to me. I knew there was something wrong, but because this was a person in authority, I kind of thought they knew better than me. So I didn't trust my instincts as much as I should have done and pursued it. And I do hear this a lot on a lot of the forums that I'm on as well, that people know that something is wrong with their child, but they're just not quite sure how to get it across to the healthcare professional because they're dismissing it. And you've got the perfect example as well.
Yeah, so my daughter Sophie was 14 when she started to become unwell with food allergies and intolerances, and we had a long road before we got some actual appointments actually. First with the hospital, we'd seen the GP who kind of dismissed it. When she got referred to Children's Allergy Clinic, and some of her reactions weren't directly allergies or more intolerances, so we got referred to gastroenterologist. So our first appointment, after I think about an 18-month wait, the doctor was an hour late to start with. No apologies, it was just, you know, I'm here now, crack on. So I started to explain Sophie's symptoms, and he literally put his hand up and said, I'll just stop you there, madam. There's no need to explain. Let me get on with my investigations. So I kind of stepped back and I thought, because I'm not a loud person, I wasn't being, you know, excitable. I was just explaining the symptoms calmly, like I am now. And so I let him get on with it. And I explained that I was trying to explain that when she was potatoes, she had severe gastric reaction, gastric cramps. So he asked a few questions, wasn't really great with the bedside manner, a bit dismissive, and off we went. Anyway, a few weeks later, we got the letter from him, which started off by saying, I met Sophie and her mother in the clinic on such a date, and I'm not sure that the symptoms are genuine. So, you know, straight away you think, am I making this up? And I was furious because we'd had a few months previously, we'd been in and out of A&E because Sophie'd had an eczema reaction which had affected her eye, which turned into cellulitis. And she had a swollen eyes, looked like she'd been beaten up, to be honest. And I'd taken photographs, and the reaction started with food. So I sent these photographs. I contacted the school because she had a mentor, and I said, I've had this letter and I'm a bit concerned. So she'd absolutely not, you know, words were, what do you need, when do you need it by, and what's his name? And she wrote a letter to explain how Sophie was one of the top performing students. She was in the choir, she was playing saxophone. She said, we know she does her work at home because she's remained in the top, you know, 5% or whatever. And she's ambitious, you know, she's certainly not trying to, because he said that because she's 14, she'd lost 10 kilo in weight, she was missing school and GCSE year. He actually said there's an underlying reason for all this, let's refer to for psychological referral. Kind of more or less saying she's anorexic and she got issues with school. Well, she's now 21 And I just said to, she's now doing her dissertation. She's third year of a degree, and she was offered, she's doing politics and modern history. She was offered a history master's course, but because she's quite independent and she wants to choose, she said, I don't just want to be told what masters to do, I want to apply for both. So she's applied for politics masters and got offered a place on both courses. So she's got so she's chosen politics, but that's because she's ambitious. So to be told that it's anorexia. So I sent photographs and wrote a really long letter to explain that as a catering professional, I kind of saw the reactions were related to food, and I really needed to know which food she could eat. And that was kind of, if I hadn't continued, I might have thought, oh, she was making it up, or gone down the road of having psychological, reports and things, which, no child wants at 14, 15.
No, and it's also really worrying, isn't it? Because if you don't trust your instincts at that point and you go with the doctor and you assume that the doctor knows better, they do generally, in 9 times out of 10 times. But if they'd gone down this path, can you imagine the damage it would have done to Sophie as well?
Yeah. So, I think, so in terms of women and our gut instincts, I think we know when a child's poorly. For me, personally, because I was a catering professional and the food I was giving to my daughter was making her poorly, I had that guilt, but I certainly wasn't neurotic. I was practical and down to earth, which I'm sure you are. And we want the best for our child. So I think it's we've got to fight for our kind of instincts, really.
I think so, definitely. And for me, I had allergies as a kid. So I knew the signs. I knew that the red swollen eyes is a really early sign of a reaction. So I knew in my heart that I was right, but to be told that you're wrong, I could have just given up on that as well. But look where it ends up. I do think, but one of the things that I wish that I'd done is keep a diary of all the incidents and what had caused them at the time, because 14 years on, I don't remember how it all started as well as I did at the time. Having evidence to take in with you and photos is absolutely brilliant. So I think those are definitely things that I would take away if I was starting the journey again.
Yeah, we did, because she was that age. I think to some extent they have to believe if you're a baby or younger. Whereas as an adult, you get in these other, is it anorexia, is it an eating disorder, etc., etc. So we did start a diary, because actually I didn't know what was causing it, so we needed to know what reaction she had after what food she'd eaten. And I did take photographs because she looked so poorly, and to kind of prove to various appointments that this is what she looked like. So it was quite difficult, really. Yeah, we were both determined, and she's determined now, and she knows her own mind, which is good. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
So I would say use your instincts. Definitely.
International Women's Day. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, and fight for what you believe in.
Exactly. Good. Okay. So we'll see you next week for another instalment. We haven't got the subject matter yet, but we'll think of something.
We will find something in the time that we've got, definitely.
All right then. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.